Okay, so I was asking, what kind of letter is this?
Discharge.
Okay,
Discharge.
So this is a discharge letter. Thank you. So this is a discharge letter. All right. So as I said, most times in the exam, to be honest, for most of the candidates that are written, if not all, there's always been referral letter. And that's why it's good for you to not to major in minor. All right. It's good to major in things that are very good. So you should be practicing more of referral. That's what I'm trying to say. Nevertheless, you should still look at writing discharge and transfer letters. All right. So I'll be quick with this. So these are discharge letter. Here you are discharging her from the hospital. All right. And then what's really the issue? What was the issue? You can tell me what the issue is. What was the reason why this patient? These are things you'll be looking out for when you want to write your introduction. Why? What are we discharging this patient for? What did the patient do? The patient had a surgery, right? Right? Are we?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so what kind
okay.
of surgery? What kind of surgery? You have to know what kind of surgery.
Laparoscopic
Laparoscopic surgery.
surgery.
For what? For which diagnosis? What's the diagnosis?
Endometriosis.
Endometriosis. So your eyes have to be fast scanning. And that's why you are given 5 minutes reading time. That 5 minutes reading time, you cannot write. What you should be looking out for is how you write a perfect introduction. Okay? So you're scanning out for these things. What are the diagnoses? Okay? What did they do for this patient? Oh, they did laparoscopic surgery. Okay? This should be part of my introduction. Okay, this is a discharge letter. So I should be writing discharge for this patient. So you're looking at those things and then you're watching them carefully. All right, so I'll just, I think we have an overview. We're not trying to go through the body of the letter. So that's why I'm not bothering you with social background, medical background. I'm just trying to give you how the letter comes in the exam day, the case note, sorry, and then how you should convert for your introduction purpose. For the body of the letter and every other thing, that will be done later, okay? And that will be done on personal writing sessions with your tutor, right? So now, how do you write introduction for this? So look at this. The first one, I am writing to discharge Mrs. Fletcher back into your care for follow-up. Now look at this. Back into your care for follow-up. So it means that the person you're referring this letter to is a known GP. That means Mrs. Fletcher knows that GP, right? That means she knows the hospital. That means you're discharging Mrs. Fletcher back to the hospital where she receives GP care. Now look at, let's go back to this. You will see where they wrote this. They said, you are a first-year resident in a surgical ward. Sally Fletcher is a 25-year-old woman who has recently undergone surgery. I'm reading the writing task. You are now discharging her from the hospital. Now, go down again, all right? So, using the information given to you in the case notes, are we seeing it? Write a letter of discharge to the patient, what? GP.
GP.
Right? So, the patient is the patient GP. So, you're referring back to the patient's GP. That, oh, we are done. Oh, the reason why you referred her to us, we have handled it, we've done the surgery, so we're taking our, take your patient back, oh, and then continue what you need to do. All right, so this patient is known by the GP, and the GP knows this patient. All right, so this is a known patient. All right, so that's why if you look at the way I wrote it, I said, I am writing to discharge Miss Fletcher back into your care. So back, so he's going back into the patient, into the GP's care, the same GP that Mrs. Fletcher has been managed before, all right? The same GP practice, practice, the patient has been managed before. So we're sending the patient back into that care. So I'm writing to discharge Mrs. Fletcher back into your care, right? For follow-up, right? Because we've done the main thing. Why? What did we do for her? What was the reason? She had what? Laparoscopic surgery done for endometriosis and has made what? Remarkable improvement. So this remarkable improvement is telling us what? It's telling us the current what?
Current update.
Right? So it's telling us current update. Because as I said, most times current update is usually in transfer and discharge letter because most, I'm not saying you cannot see it in referral. Don't get me wrong. But then because the patient would have stayed for a while. They've done something reasonable. So it's either the patient got better or there's a deteriorating symptoms. All right, so you can see this. This was, I am writing to discharge Mrs. Fletcher back into your care for follow-up. She had laparoscopic surgery done for endometriosis and has made remarkable improvement. That's fine. Now look at the second one. You can start with this second one. Your patient. I mean, you're telling the GP, now your patient, and now you get out. All right. Now you get this patient. All right. So your patient, Mrs. Fletcher, as I said, one thing about this letter is that you can always vary. You can either start with what the patient is being managed for, and then later say what you are doing. Either you're discharging or you're referring. So you can see this one. I said, your patient, Ms. Fletcher, had laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis. Then full stop, Abi. She was managed accordingly. Look at it, oh, and has made some remarkable improvements. But what are we doing with her? We want to discharge her what? She's being discharged back into your care for follow-up. Number 1 and 2 is still saying the same thing, not just grammar, not just variation, to be honest. Your patient, you can start with that. You're very correct. Your patient, Mrs. Fletcher, had laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis. She was managed accordingly and has made some remarkable improvements. She is being discharged back into your care for follow-up. Right? Is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I will show you all this. This is the third way of writing. You can also use this format. I would like to inform you, Mr. GP. I'm just saying, okay? I would like to inform you that your patient, Mrs. Fletcher, has made a remarkable recovery or good recovery, anyone you want to use, after she was managed surgically for endometriosis. So still the same thing. You are telling the GP that she has made recovery, but you're also telling the GP what was done. She was managed surgically for endometriosis. I am discharging her back to you. Okay? Either you use back into your care or back into your care for follow-up. You can use that. Look at this. Remember that we've been using back into your care for follow-up. Are we seeing it? Back into your care for follow-up, right? Well, you can also use I am discharging her back to you for monitoring and support. You're correct. So you can see either you use monitoring and support. It's still the same thing. It's follow-up, not to monitor and to support the patient. True or false?
True.
True.
True. All right. So, I mean, I would like to inform you that your patient, Mrs. Fletcher, has made a remarkable recovery or a good recovery, okay, after she was managed surgically for endometriosis. I am discharging her back to you for monitoring and support, right? Okay, so that's that for discharge letter. These are variations, so you must know how to write them. So don't say, oh, because I said you should not major in minor, Excel OET Academy said we should not even practice discharge letter. You know, they come out. You now go to exam, you now see it, you say, I'm going to collect my change from these people. Yeah? Okay, so it's important that we look through all these things painstakingly, all right? And then we always provide guidance whenever you need them. All right, so I'm going to the last two. Now, transfer letter was very hard for me to get, to be honest. If you even go to different platforms to see where you can get transfer letter, you see that transfer letter is common with nurses, and even discharge letter is common with nurses, all right? So, but for doctors for doctors, it's quite difficult to get transfer letters. So I had to even crop this and try to find a way that, okay, fine, let's have what a transfer letter looks like and how to write a transfer letter to tell you how uncommon. Okay, it is even before I even got this discharge too. It was not very common. All right, I had to go and dig deep to see how we can have that done so that our student will benefit properly. Okay, so this transfer letter. Now look at this. You can read, you say you are the resident doctor in the medical ward, was admitted for pacemaker placement surgery. These are the patient details. So the patient had pacemaker placement surgery. What was the writing tax? Writing tax said, use information given in the case note. I didn't want to monitor the case note because, I mean, it was pretty too long. And I wanted clarity because if I had done that, I remember very clear. So Use the information given in the case note. Write a transfer letter to Mr. William Connolly. I think I made a mistake here. I made a mistake with the name. Yeah, when I was playing. Say to Mr. William Connolly. Don't worry, I used Mrs. Christina Gaba. All right, don't worry. The chief physiotherapist, okay, at Lakeshore. You can see we are writing, what are we transferring this letter to? To who? Is it to a doctor?
No, a physiotherapist.
You can also get tasks that might not be referred to a doctor, right? So you can get tasks that might be sent to a physiotherapist, maybe an occupational therapist, to maybe a nurse or maybe home care nursing and stuff like that. So you must be very, very mindful. Don't say, referral. Doctor, no. Physiotherapist, could be physiotherapist, be anybody, okay? Now, so this is it. So how do we write this? I am writing to transfer, don't worry about the name. The name was an error, okay? I'm writing to transfer Mrs. Christina Gaba, but it's the same thing. A 77-year-old woman who underwent permanent pacemaker placement surgery. Look at this. If you look at the up part, right? She had what? Pacemaker what? Placement surgery. Are we seeing it? Right. So I'm trying to give the physiotherapist heads up. And I told the physiotherapist, our condition is stable. What does condition is stable? What does it mean? The patient updates currently, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so the patient condition is stable. And what does she require from the physiotherapist? Rehabilitation. So this is what you're transferring. This is why you're transferring this patient to the physiotherapist for rehabilitation at your center following our discharge today. So we are discharging from here. We are discharging to transfer her into your care for rehabilitation. All right, so I'm writing to transfer Mrs. Christina Gaba, a 77-year-old woman who underwent permanent pacemaker placement surgery. All right, then I said full stop. Our condition is stable. So this is the current update. She's doing fine. We're not sending an unstable patient to you so that you'll not be sweating under AC. All right, we're sending a patient that is stable and requires rehabilitation from. That's the services that you want the physiotherapist to provide, is rehabilitation services. And that's the reason for the transfer, right? Another way of writing it is, I'm writing to introduce. Remember that this is not a known patient by the physiotherapist. So when you see something I'm writing to introduce, know that it's a new what? Patient to the physiotherapist, right? Right. So you can use it like this. You can say, I am writing to introduce Mrs. Christina Gaba, a 77-year-old woman who has been assigned to you, just to you, Mr. Physiotherapist, for rehabilitation. So remember I said you can mix this. Either you write the purpose of why you're writing the letter first, and then come later to write what was done, or what was the diagnosis, or what she was being managed for. Fine. So I am writing to introduce Mrs. Christina Gaba. So that means I can also write it like this. Listen, I'm writing to introduce Miss Christina Gaba, a 7-year-old woman who underwent permanent pacemaker placement surgery. True or false?
Yeah.
You see where I mixed it now. Here I didn't write, I had to remove assigned for rehabilitation. I had to write the condition she was managed for. You are also correct. So this is not cast in stone. There's really hard to pass through for this. So the first one I said, she underwent permanent pacemaker placement surgery and has made what?
Remarkable.
Good recovery.
Good recovery.
That's also updates, right?
Yes.
Fine. You can see updates are coming up. Okay. I'm sure that this answers Dr. Quay's questions, right? And how to use this. All right. So I'm writing to introduce Mrs. Christina Gaba, a 77-year-old woman who has been assigned to you for rehabilitation. She someone's mic is on. He underwent permanent pacemaker placement surgery and has made good recovery. All right. So this is the third and final way of writing the transfer letter. And then we'll take questions, and then our tutors, Dr. Ifyok and Dr. May, and Dr. Martha, will respond. I need to go and drink water. Okay, so transfer letter. The third way, you can say, thank you for accepting, right? To take over the management of Mrs. Christina Gaba, a 77-year-old woman who has been transferred to you for what? Rehabilitation. So
Rehabilitation.
instead I use she has been transferred or who has been assigned, I can use who has been assigned to you. See the same thing. Assigned means you're transferring here. Okay? Who has been assigned to you for rehabilitation. She recently had permanent pacemaker placement surgery with good improvement. All right? You can see with good improvement is telling us what? The updates, right? How far the patient has done since admission and since the surgery has occurred. Okay, so thank you for accepting to take over the management of Mrs. Christina Gaba, a 77-year-old woman who has been transferred to you for rehabilitation. She recently had permanent pacemaker placement surgery with good improvement. Okay, all right. So thank you all. I'll be handing over to Dr. Martha or Dr. Ifyok on the call to take questions. I'll also be on the background. All right. So
thank you.
All right. So Dr. Martha, Dr. Ifyok, you can.
So well done, Dr. Ebuka, on your presentation. I think you have done justice to the introductory paragraph of our letters. So please, we'd love to welcome questions and clarifications on anything you would like to know.
Okay. Hi, good evening. I'm Rashida. So can you hear me?
Yes, please, Rashida.
Okay, yes. My question is regarding the first aspect, the referral. I just noticed that he, like in the body of, the introduction, we just kept saying investigation, like it didn't have S. Is that because we just know that the patient is going just for endoscopy? I don't know. Do you get my question? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
Are you just saying that? Yes, that just investigation, not investigations. So I just want to know that, does that matter? All those tiny, little bit of.
I don't think it really matters, but anyways,
okay.
Look at your case, the last clinic visit. If you were referring the patient for an investigation, for example,
okay.
You are still, that's okay to just leave it that way, but they won't score you for that. They won't take a mark from you for that.
Okay, thank you.
And then just to lend a voice to what Dr. Buka has already done so far. All you need in this particular OET is just for you to get 1 or 2 samples of your introductory paragraph and just be familiar with it. You don't need to study all the patterns or form that he has actually given us tonight. Just find 2 that you know that you're familiar with, that you can work with, and just make it yours. So whenever you go into exams, you already know what to do in terms of your address. You have to write your address and you just move on. Your first paragraph should be done in like 1 minute or so, less than 30 seconds should be done, because you already have a pre-template in your mind already. Just find a template among these that he has given and just use. So then next thing will be you focusing on the body of your letter. So if you just go, just find a template, 1 or 2 templates here, be familiar with it, and you're good to go.
All right, thank you.
Okay, just to lend a voice to what, so investigation itself can either be plural or singular, okay? So if you say investigation, it can be singular. Investigation can also be plural, all right? So it depends on what you're using. Some people still use investigations, you're not still wrong, but then investigation itself can be singular or plural, all right? Is that clear?
Okay.
So, so anyone you use is fine. That's 1 or single. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Ifyok, I think we have.
Okay.
So here, please, questions. We're still welcoming questions, please.
Okay, sorry, thank you so much. I think my network knocked me off from that. So we can just put either S or no S for the investigations.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So my own question is, I saw some previous writings where each follow-up has objective and subjective. I was a bit confused. So if I want to write a letter of introduction now, which one will I pick? Is it the objective aspect of each of the visits as the current visits, or The subjective aspects is what I'm going to pick from.
Okay, I think I understand what you're saying. I think, I mean, if, okay, let me just go through this. Okay, so your last clinic visit, if you can hear me, your last clinic visit will tell you what should be done for the patient. Do you understand? In fact, you see something like plan, subjective, okay, send patients for what for example,
Hello?
endoscopy. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you. I lost you there, please.
Okay. So when you're referring a patient, what you should be looking at is your plan. Do you understand? And most time, just to add to what Dr. Buka said, there are some letters you will see and you will never see anything like, for example, writing task cases, using the information in the case notes, write a letter of referral for further investigation and definitive diagnosis. Now, there are some writing tasks you will see, you might see in your exam dates, they write something like, using the information in the case notes, write a letter. We will not say anything like write a letter of referral. See something like write a letter for further investigation and definitive diagnosis to the gastroenterologist, Dr. blah, 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 Dr. XYZ of Y and X hospital. Now, what will guide you to know what you're doing is a plan. The plan of the last clinic visit, which is 18th June 2018. Look at what Dr. Buka is projecting on the screen right now. So now you now know that for this now, the reason why you're writing this referral is for what the gastroenterologist, what's the reason for, what is expected for the gastroenterologist to do is for endoscopy. Do you understand what I'm saying now? So always look at your plan, the plan for the last clinic visit. It will guide you on what type of letter you're writing and the reason why you're writing the letter.
Okay.
I mean, so you know that endoscopy is a form of investigation. Does it make sense now? I don't know whether you're hearing me. So it's like I said before, just to repeat what I said in some tasks, you might not even see the reason for referral. You might just tell you, okay, write a letter for investigation and a definitive diagnosis to Dr. XYZ. Now, what will guide you to know whether it's a referral letter or discharge letter is your plan. So whenever you're looking at your writing task, please go back to your plan and look at what's expected to be done. So sometimes you can now see that in your plan, they say refer. Have you seen refer?
Yes.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so that refer that you see in your plan,
Yes.
idea that the letter you're writing is now a referral letter. So please don't be swept off your feet. If you now see in your exam, so write a letter without mentioning the kind of letter you're writing under your writing task. Just go back to the plan and look at the plan. What was meant to be done for this patient? Now you can see refer gastroenterologist for opinion and endoscopy if required. Do you understand? You just know that you're writing
Yes.
referral. Always look at your plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, okay, Dr. Martha, do you have anything to add or something while we still take questions?
All right, so it was a wonderful tutorial. I actually don't really have anything to add, but if there are questions, I'll be able to entertain them. So do we have any questions?
Not anymore.
Didn't know come out.
Okay, Dr. Buka,
Yes, please.
hope they will have this shared on the academy group, right?
Yeah, to be posted.
Okay, no, that's fine. So even after the class, you can just go through it again and just adopt a template on which one you will use or which one you're comfortable with using when you're writing your answers. You can get 2 for transfer, 2 for discharge. And you're good to go. Or 2 for transfer.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you all. I'm sure that it was a good class. So if you have any questions still, you can message any of the tutors. You can post it on the page, and then we'll be ready to respond to any of your queries. All right, so do have a wonderful night, and good night, everyone.
You too. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
All right.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Night.